Let me know if I get choppy, if you guys will do me that favor. I'm having some internet issues here and they think they've fixed it. But if I'm choppy your way, please let me know. It is 4 o'clock, so this is the Executive Committee of Salinas Valley Recycles, and we're going to go ahead and call to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Collin?
I'm here.
Alternate Vice President Tipton?
Present.
Vice President Cromings?
Here.
And President Lopez.
Here. Great. Everybody's here. We'll open with General Manager and Department Manager comments. Why don't we go ahead and run through this, starting with Patrick?
Sure, I've got just a few updates. I've had a couple of questions from board members around what's going on with treated wood waste. So I'll be doing a more formal update, I think, at the February meeting. But the short version of it is the governor did not approve a bill in December that would have allowed the continued disposal of treated wood waste in municipal landfills. And it took everybody by surprise, and effective January 1, we weren't allowed to take it at all. So there's been some clarification. Right now we're taking small quantities, 50 pounds and less, from members of the public for the short term, but the Department of Toxic Substances Control is working on a variance process to allow landfills to take that material again. Unfortunately, we cannot, take larger quantities from contractors until that variance process is put in place, and it probably won't be until sometime in the month of March before it's all completed. So I'll keep the board informed, and hopefully by the full board meeting, we'll get a little more update on the timeline for rectifying that problem, because it is creating some havoc, especially for contractors. I will be coming back in February at the board's request with the previous modern transfer station design presentation. It was requested I do that, and particularly for the newer board members, to bring them back up to speed on what we're really talking about in terms of a transfer station at either Madison Lane or elsewhere. So I will be providing that update. And the final one, and this will probably be coming back to the executive committee in March for formal discussion, is as Cal Recycle is rolling out a lot of guidance, and I can tell you staff and I have been on webinars for like weeks now from Cal Recycle as they do independent webinars on all the different requirements, provisions, tools, and things that are related to SB 1383. It's a fairly overwhelming process, but we are getting some new insight into some things that are going to be required that weren't necessarily crystal clear in the regulations or the legislation. And so one of the things that we're doing right now, Mandy and I in particular, are starting to just look at other technologies that allow real high rate recovery of organics, and specifically organics that is still in the mixed waste stream. One of the challenges with collecting that 75% that's in the waste stream is a lot of it is going to be difficult to collect, and it's going to be very hard to get full compliance. And that's sort of a common theme we're seeing across the state. So we're looking at a few different technologies that would allow us to extract it mechanically from the waste stream and potentially use it to generate biomethane that can be used in a lot of different ways. And we've been talking with Gonzales as well. They have a demand for additional electricity and for their industrial park because they're energy poor because of where they are on the PG&E grid. So they've been working on a microgrid project to help serve their industrial park and allow for some growth. So we'll keep you up to date. We'll probably have a little more detailed information. At some point, we may even consider requesting approval to go forward and hire a consultant just to help guide us, because there's a lot of great options we have in front of us in terms of how we deal with that more difficult organic part of the waste stream and some of the benefits that we can derive from that. So, and there's a lot of grant money that's available now for these types of programs. So just a little preview of what's to come. We'll be continuing to discuss these options going forward. That concludes my remarks for tonight.
Thank you, Patrick. Any department managers wish to make comments? You guys can fight it out over who goes first. New leadership. Just kidding. All right. Hearing nobody coming forward, we'll go ahead and open up public comments, and we'll share that there's no public comment that's been emailed in to be read into the record today. But if you've joined us from the public and wish to share a public comment, we ask that you use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. If you're participating via landline, *9 will raise your hand and let us know that you wish to be recognized. Seeing no hands going up, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to this group. All right, let's start with consideration items. The first we have on the agenda, actually, I skipped committee member comments. I do apologize. I want to come back and see if we have any committee member comments. See, I'm fresh here. Sorry.
I thought you were doing a great job.
It sounded smooth, right?
It sounded smooth.
So I'll go ahead and start with Vice President Christy Cromings. Any comments for us today?
The only thing I want to do is I want to thank Patrick for bringing back the presentation on the new center, on our proposed center. I think that will do a lot. I really do think it will do a lot to let people refresh their memories of what it's going to look like. And also, of course, I'm really concerned about what we're going to do with that wood debris. So thank you for keeping us updated on that as well. Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome. Thank you. Alternate
Vice President Drew Tipton.
I'll echo the same thing about bringing back the proposed facility. I think a lot of the people that are new to the board, I know when I came on the board 2 years ago, it was nice to be able to see what we were trying to deliver. And I think that'll go a long way. Maybe we need to see about doing a public outreach again on that too. Show people what we're trying to build and show people what a transfer station should look like. So when they hear about a transfer station, they don't think that we're trying to put something like Sun Street in their backyard. We want to put a nice facility in their backyard, and that may go a long way towards goodwill.
Get rid of the panic.
Exactly. And the only other thing I have is apparently last week was the first of the food waste pickups here in Greenfield with the yellow bins. Paul Wood and I are actually going to go talk to La Plaza Bakery and Starbucks early next week to see how that program's going. And we will hopefully have a report back on that shortly.
Mandy?
Well, just to Drew's point, I was out at the landfill when the food waste arrived, Drew, so I can send you pictures if you're interested. We had
yes,
3.
Please.
Oh, okay. Yes, I will do that. We had 3 of the 4 restaurants participating. Starbucks has not started yet, but they will. We had about 13 bags of food waste that came in. It was very clean. And they did a great job. That was all in the bio bags that we provided. So it looked really, really good.
Good.
So we were very excited. I will send you the pictures.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you. We're going to head over to past President Cullen.
No, I don't really have anything other than I'm not supposed to vote on anything, right? I'm just an advisory.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Correct.
Good. I'm good.
And since you said past President Cullen, that actually reminds me of something. Am I out of turn to mention something?
Oh God,
Well,
now I'm really curious.
You're in now, so you got to go, Ray.
With the change of the executive board, I'm supposed to update our signatures, but I actually do need live signatures to do that. So with the executive committee's permission, I'd like to hold off on that for a few months until we can all meet in person and I can get everyone to sign the forms. Right now, Rob is still on the signature card, as well as Christopher's already on the signature card with myself and Patrick.
I'm fine with that.
That works. That just means you won't be calling me to sign anything.
Yeah, I have to refresh because it's the president. Actually, sorry, Chris, I'm not sure if you're on it. It might actually be Gloria.
Yeah, I don't think it was me.
It's been a while since
I'll have to double check because if it's Gloria, I may have to expedite it because she's no longer on our board. But I will double check, and worst case we'll mail out everything. But I hate to do that because it does require driver's license numbers and personal information. I'd rather just have the signatures in person and be done with it.
Yeah, let me know. I come up to Salinas twice a week, so I can stop in anywhere you need me to sign.
And I was actually
Okay.
gonna say the same thing, as I can head up to Salinas without a problem. So if you,
It would be
Fine.
Christopher.
Something
Okay, in that case, I'll gather everything and get them to Erica, and then she can schedule something with either herself or leave it with one of the admins or Ernesto to get signatures. And I believe I have to double check. It's the president and the vice president. So Christopher, I'll need your check on a couple of things because I need to update the check forms in our accounting system as well.
Sounds good.
that's okay. We also need to turn in Form 700s anyway.
Those are coming
Yes.
up too.
Erica's big smile. That's her.
Mine is done already,
That's
so I'm
That's
good.
if she gets all the dirt.
I'm just glad I don't have to constantly remind you guys. You guys are reminding me, it looks like.
All right. I just wanted to share, I got good news a few minutes ago on a little success. And I think, in terms of the advocacy that a lot of you helped with on the CVS issue that we all saw over the last couple of days has borne fruit. We are finding out that we're not sure if it's a moved site or a new site, but a site is now going to be opened in Salinas as well. We're still fighting to get one into South County. But I did talk to our congressman, who was very clear that without the noise, it wouldn't have happened. And so I just, wanted to share that good news in terms of the COVID vaccine rollout. We're still getting low numbers, 4,200 a week, but we are fighting for every dose we can to get it into Monterey County. And just want to thank everybody for their continued support and advocacy so that we can get our community to a place where our numbers come down and it's safe and we can reopen restaurants and deal with more food waste than we have right now, Mandy. So I just want to thank everybody for their efforts and their support on that end.
Happy to hear that.
Wraps my comments. Thank you.
So happy.
All right.
Chris, can I ask you just a quick question? Is the county considering, I've heard this sort of rumor going around that they're going to push back second doses to somewhere like 10 or 12 weeks instead of 3 to 4, just to get more doses there?
So I've heard the rumor. Unfortunately, there's a disagreement at this point between CDC and CDPH. CDC is saying no, get people double vaccinated. That's the only way to keep them safe, as safe as possible. Where CDPH is the one who said, go ahead and just roll with the one shot. We're seeing San Luis Obispo roll with the one shot. And I don't know where Dr. Moreno is going to end up on that yet, but it is something that he's told us he's thinking about, but there's no answer yet.
All right, thank you.
Of course. Okay, then with that, we'll head into our minutes of January 7th. I know we have a new committee, but just want to see if there's any comments or concerns about the first item on our agenda today. Hearing none, I'll see if we have any public comment on item number 1. Again, we ask that you use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I'll bring it back and see if I can get a motion on that.
So moved. Move approval.
Second.
Motion from Tipton, second from Cromies. Let's go ahead and take a vote.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Yes.
Vice President Cromies,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Next item is our December 2020 claims and financial reports. Ray, we'll kick that over to you.
I like to preface this with this. This presentation is not normally this detailed, but with new members on the executive committee, I did want to review some items that are on the staff report just to kind of refresh everyone. So in the staff report, we always include a section that talks about cash balances. So at the end of December, we had 30,500,000 in cash balances, but as you can see, most of it's assigned or committed. We have 5 million set aside for closure, and that's a requirement. State and federal grants, we're waiting for some reimbursements, which is why that's negative. We do have a trust for the Central Coast Media Recycling Coalition, as well as employee medical claims, flexible spending accounts that we have in one of our bank accounts. And then committed by board policy. So we have several reserve accounts, and then a lot of items. You hear me say this a lot. We try to fund things over time to kind of absorb the hit over time. So we set aside money for capital improvements every year, and then same for the post-closure of the 3 sites, and then we started funding Johnson County in post-closure. So this available for operations is really the money we're working with. It always starts a deficit because we pay the big chunk of our debt service in August, and then again on February 1st. So it works as deficit. By the end of the year, it is budgeted to be at a positive. So at the end of December, we were negative 447,000 in the operating fund. But as I've said, that's normal, and we will be fine later. Next slide, please. Okay, so added this little chart at the bottom, but at the end of December, we were at 57% of our budgeted amount. We did have a budget approval in January for diverted materials, as well as some of the deferred revenues to kind of get these back where they need to be. So if you take those into account, we're at about 55%. So our tipping fee revenue does this little wavy, and you guys can't see my mouse, but the bottom of the slide, he does this wavy little, what I call little rolling hill effect throughout the year. So it does peak in the hot months between May and September at about 9% of our revenue, and then dips down in January, February being the shortest month, and starts to pick back up. So when we take those revenue into account, we should be at about 52% of our revenue at the end of December, just to give you guys a little point of reference. So we're at 55%, even with the budget adjustments, should be at 52. So we have a little bit of bandwidth. We're doing good, but not, we're doing well enough that I'm not worried about, but not so well that I'm not worried about it at all. I need still keeping an eye on it throughout the year. Next slide, please. Okay, so in a staff report, we do this comparison. Once again, this is done before the budget adjustments. So for the month of December, we were up 170,000 tipping for solid waste tipping fees, diverted materials 3,000, and total revenue 44,000. And that's mainly due to some gas royalties that we did not have the information enough to accrue it beforehand, that we typically accrue to December. But year to date, solid waste tipping fees were up $1 million, diverted materials 500,000, and we did have those budget adjustments in January, and total revenue up 1.3 million. Next slide. So this is probably the one and only time you will see all of our departments on one page, because I did have to kind of drop this in a spreadsheet and clean it up to get it here. But at the end of December, we were 52% spent before the budget adjustment, and actually at 50% after the budget adjustments. The only real line that was concerning is organics, which on here is 52%, but we pay the bills after the fact. So we only had paid through November and December. Everything else is in line. Diversion services just has a small budget number, and Sun Street is a little high, but there's enough bandwidth in the other line, in the other departments to absorb that before the end of the year. So on this bottom line, revenue over expenditure, so this is the money that we transfer to the capital improvement and post-closure at the beginning. So we need to have a surplus in the operating budget in order to fund those set-asides. But we are in good shape at this point in time. So unless there are any specific questions.
Questions from members of the committee?
Great information. Thank you.
Agreed. Numbers look good. All right, then.
They're
let's go ahead and
manageable.
open it. They're manageable.
They're manageable.
Open it up to the public.
We're in good shape. We just gotta keep on it and keep an eye and
Well,
you know.
Just considering where we're at, you know,
Yeah.
considering the times that we're in, this looks good.
Yeah, no, see, the operation stuff does a great job of, you know, doing doing things as cheaply as possible to help us out at all times. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
we've
you.
been spoiled the last 2 or 3 years with having, you know, above average years, several years in a row. So being just a little bit above where we're supposed to be is actually, yeah.
It panics you, but it makes us go, okay, it's okay.
I mean, if you'd seen some of the other budgets I look at.
Right? I'm
This is
thinking this looks
golden.
great.
All right, let's open it up for public comment and see if we have any public comment on this budget presentation. I'm sorry, claims and financial reports. See no hands going up. We'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back. I believe we need to recommend that this be forwarded to the board for approval. Can I get a motion to that effect?
Motion made.
Second.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Yes.
Vice President Cromings,
Yes.
and President Lopez, sorry.
See, Rob? See what we do? What
Old
I have to
habits
deal
die
with here?
No, Chris, what you don't know is Erica and I are planning a coup. We're taking.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it.
I was just
King
I
of
was
the
just watching
hill.
Rob laugh in the background and not, you know, not bother to reach for his mute button.
With all that commentary, Erica, I will give you a yes, even though I think you tried to overthrow me. Okay. All right. We'll consider that item moved and headed to item 3, which is our preliminary budget for 21-22, and heading back to Ray.
Okay, the presentation is largely unchanged from both the January EC and board meetings. So just to review some of the line items, I'll probably go a little faster than I did last time, but if I go too fast, please, we can rewind or just cut me off at some point if I'm going too fast. So the budget assumptions are the increased organics program that was approved in 2017. The board did choose to defer the rate increases, the third phase of that rate increase. So it is built into the budget along with another small adjustment to try to get that program close to fully funded. Implementation of the beginning of the implementations of SB 1383 requirements. So that's a staffing change, some consultant work, and a little bit of supplies, which I'll go over in detail when we get there. The preliminary budget does have equalization of organics rates. Go over towards the end in the presentation what an AB 939 rate increase would be if the rates aren't equalized. And then last year, the board approved the implementation of organics and wood waste, and we were looking to phase that rate in over a couple of years, but with the deferred rates, we do have that rate increasing to the full rate needed to fund that. So these are the two largest diversion programs that we have. I will say it again later, but they're meant to reduce solid waste, and solid waste is what pays for debt service and post-closure and my salary. So as long as most of the other salaries. So we need those diversion programs to at least pay for themselves, since they're reducing the other tonnage. Like Patrick used to say, the last ton in the landfills should cost $20 million because it has to pay for everything at that point in time. So as we get these programs online, we have to make sure they're funding themselves. And there are no other program changes. Next slide, please. So just a reminder that the mid-year budget adjustments that were approved last month are built in and carried over, mainly organics processing, some increase set aside from increased tonnage assumptions, and then the CIP comparison will include the adjustments in the mid-year. Next slide. Okay, so we are talking about a balanced budget, revenues of 22.4 million, expenditures of just shy 23.3 million. I'm reading the wrong line. And expenditures of just shy of 23.3 million with a budgeted balance for reserve of 6,850. Next slide. Okay, so our payroll is budgeted to increase by technically 161,000, but for comparison purposes, it's 333,000. So the COLA that's in the MOU for all 60, I should look that up, 64 employees is 170,000. Scheduled merit increases are going to be 92,000. Health insurance premiums are budgeted to increase 82,000, with all other payroll increases and decreases netting a decrease of 17.5. So total payroll increase of 333,000. The budget does have a one-time use of funds of 170,000 for PERS unfunded liability. The PERS didn't meet their investments with everything shut down at the end of last fiscal year, but that doesn't show up until next year. So we set up a couple of months ago the CEPPT, and we did transfer little over $170,000 into that fund to help us have some money set aside for when that liability is payable in September, October of next year. Next slide. So we are looking for 2 new positions. One of them is an equipment maintenance technician. We did have one allocated this year, but that unfortunately one position is not enough for all of the equipment that we have. Just like last year, we were expecting to pay for this position with savings from our vehicle maintenance accounts. Right now, we contract out a lot of the larger service for our vehicles, and with two equipment maintenance techs, we should be able to service the majority of our fleet and possibly some of the larger repairs. Next slide, please.
Ray, before you move on, can I take you back to that last slide and do my best Drew Tipton impression? You're missing an O in troubleshoot.
Well, maybe they did it in the past.
Keeping us on our toes.
And that slide's been off since last year, so now I've missed it like 7 times because I literally
saved it. It's an egg. You got to go back in the past episodes to catch it all.
I got a copy. I copied it from last year because it's the same work. So I will fix it. Thank you. Okay, so we're also looking for a resource recovery technician. There's a long list of things that we're planning to assign, but essentially they're to help implement the SB 1383 requirements, and they would be paid for with an increase of AB 939 fees. Next slide. So the total budget increases, as I just went over, the payroll increases 333,000. Insurance is budgeted to increase 239,000. The majority of that is due to higher than expected insurance increases in this fiscal year, with some of the forced insurance premiums. The insurance companies wanted to make themselves whole, so we had some high increases this year, and then nominal increase on top of that. SB 1383 implementation, so that's 208,000. So that is the staff position that I just talked about, as well as some consultant work, and then some supplies needed for the education portion of that. The organics program is increasing $50,000, and that's the vendor CPI on that at Johnson Canyon. Fuel's increasing 32,000, state and regional fees 30,000, and everything else is 15,000 credits. So total operating budget increases are $877,000. Next slide, please. So just to remind everyone, our debt service schedule, we did refinance debt service back in 2014 and took the savings ahead of time. It's part of the reason we were able to see some increases in order to fund much needed capital and maintenance at the sites. We are at a level $3.13 million for the next few years, and then it starts tapering down in 27, 28, and then we make the final payment on August 1st, 2031. Next slide. Okay, so the CPI budget, as I mentioned earlier, we do budget equipment replacement and maintenance over, we try to keep it as flat as possible over a year so that when those big pieces of equipment are due, we have money set aside. We had taken out loans for both Colon Road and Johnson Canyon when we took over those operations for the initial equipment. And once we paid off those loans, we started rolling into a CIP so we can replace that equipment when it's time. There's a few changes in the CIP budget year over year. $15,000 for post closure. That's at Lewis Road for some flare improvements we're expecting to have to do in a few years. Organics recovery program. So that's $50,000, and that's just to start setting aside money for that new compost pad blowers, so we can maintain. So we can have money to replace the equipment and everything we put out there when we start needing to in a few years. Roadway maintenance improvement. This is one that Christopher's been asking for a few years, so we're budgeting $100,000 going forward. We did have a minor adjustment for the Johnson Canyon roadway that we did this past year, so it's a difference of $94,700, but the plan is to set aside $100,000 a year beginning next year going forward. Colon Road transfer station improvements, just starting to set aside a small amount just so that when we do need repairs out there, once again, we have money set aside. So total CIP allocations increasing by $185,000 with estimated new sales set aside of $5 per ton at for 210,000 tons. So the total expected allocation is 3.8 million, but just a reminder that we set aside money for the new sale based on actual tonnage. So this is an estimate, and then we roll the actual amount over into the CIP budget in September when we bring the final CIP budget over along with carryovers. Next slide, please. Okay, so the projected revenue increases. So equalizing the Salinas organics rate would bring an additional $460,000 in revenue. Absent that, we will need a separate adjustment, and staff would recommend that be an AB 939 adjustment, and we'll go over the comparisons of those impacts later. The organics program the other rate increases in our organics program would provide $318,000. We are recommending AB 939 fee increase of $267,000. The majority of that to pay for the new SB 1383 requirements. Dollar increase of transportation surcharge would increase revenue by $136,000. And then we are recommending increase to construction demolition, but decreased tonnage actually still reduces that revenue by $190,000, and then all the other revenue changes are increase of $72,000 for total revenue increase of $1,062,000. Next slide, please. So the rate changes necessary to achieve those revenue increases are in front of you. No changes to solid waste, green waste self-haul up to $48. Some of that deferred, and another just as we're looking at the system that their rate was going at increase at a much slower rate than franchise, and really it needs to be a little closer to franchise. Franchise the $5 that was deferred last year plus another $2 is $50, and then should be close to CPI going forward. $50 is actually fairly close to fully funding that for franchise at this time. C&D $68.50, sludge, just the deferred amounts, just $36. Wood waste is the same rate as green waste self-haul, so to $48 transportation surcharge, $1 increase, and then clean fill dirt all the way up to $68.50. And I know that looks like a drastic increase, but we don't want the dirt. We don't have room for the dirt, and we're having to find ways to manage the dirt. So at this point, it's basically taking up landfill airspace. So if it's gonna take up landfill airspace, it should, bring us the same revenue as the garbage does. And then AB 939 fees, 82,000 deferred plus another 85,000, which is most of the new program for SB 1383, just like even numbers. So I got that to 3 million. And next slide, please. So in the packet, there are several slides breaking down the rate impact between AB 939. So just for simplicity, I'm just comparing the two here. So equalized organics disposal rate for Salinas versus an additional AB 939 fee increase to deal with the budgetary shortfall. So for self-haul, additional AB 939 fee would save the typical Republic self-haul customer 15 cents. And it'd be 15 to 30 cents increase for the other agencies. Typical 1 yard, 1 time per week pickup would save Republic, the Salinas customer 52 cents, but would mean an increase of between $1 and $2 for other agencies. And then for the 3 yard, be a savings of $1.55 for Salinas and a $2 to $5 increase for other agencies. So hopefully I didn't go too fast, but I'm happy to answer any questions or take any feedback before we bring this to the board for consideration, so we can schedule the rate hearings. We're hoping to schedule rate hearings at the March board meeting.
Is everybody clear on the what we talk when we're talking about the equalized rates and non-equalized rates, the history behind that? Or would you like
any questions on the equalized rate?
Well, I just want to make sure everybody, it's a concept we talk about so often. I just want to make sure everybody understands the difference between when we're talking about the equalized rates. Well, I'll give you the 30-second version. We signed an agreement in 2004 with Republic Services to secure their organics. And for some strange reason, the prior general manager, the only time I ever throw him under the bus, in council, we executed an agreement with no end date, functionally. As long as Republic is the city's hauler, that rate stays in place. And that was at a time when organics were really cheap to manage and had different outlets than what we were required to do today. So Republic has stated that they will terminate that agreement with the approval of the city of Salinas, because it will, as you can see here, require, the first time it happens, will require some pass-through. But once that's done, then everybody's paying equalized rates. Otherwise, we're going to have this discussion every year that Salinas is paying less than the others, even though they'll end up paying for some of that differential in the 939 fees. There is still a component that ends up getting spread amongst the other member agencies.
Thank you, Patrick. All right. I've got one quick question, Ray. Can you go back to the slide with the rates by the commodities or resources?
No, you went too far. That one. Back one.
There you go.
There you go. That one. I know that I think it was a year and a half ago, we were having a conversation. I think it was sludge that was coming in from the Bay Area. Is that right?
Yeah, we did I can't remember if it was last year or the year before,
it
we
was actually
actually
soil
did
rate.
out of district sludge and dirt to the tipping fee rate, and that mostly, it had the effect we wanted and mostly eliminated that tonnage from coming in.
Perfect. I just wanted to follow up
Yes.
on that. I know that.
So
Sludge
the
word was stuck in my head.
in district sludge, there is still some value, but we do want to continue to increase that over time. But like I mentioned, dirt, there are other outlets for it. I know like Monterey Regional needs the dirt. So at this point, we would rather kind of push them to other outlets.
Encourage it that way.
Yes.
Thank you, Ray.
And it's not
All
a
right,
large
I'm gonna
revenue
see if
stream
we have
for
any
us.
other
So.
questions from members of the committee?
No,
Did I
sir.
freeze there? Okay. Then we'll take it out to the public, see if we have any public comment. Seeing no hands going up, we'll close public comment. Bring it back. The action requested on this item is to forward to the board for direction. So can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Tipton, second from Cromines. Can we get a roll call vote on that, please?
Sure. Alternate Vice President Tifton,
Yes.
Vice President Cromings,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes. All right. Now we have our future agenda items with the view ahead calendar. I believe we'll kick that over to Patrick.
All right. Well, I think you've got a good preview for the majority of the what's going to be in the February agenda. A couple of grant authorizations we'll be looking at. We're looking at some additional air grants and applications to replace equipment or to benefit our fleet replacement with cleaner fuel vehicles. So that'll be in there. And of course, the modern transfer station presentation, the presentation you just received. And we will talk in closed session a little bit about the Sun Street transfer station and Madison Lane real property components. But hopefully we will have an open session discussion at the February meeting regarding the status and hopefully some action regarding the possibility of us co-locating at Madison Lane with Republic Services. So more to come on that, but we'll be talking a little bit about some of the remaining items that we need direction on in closed session, maybe at the full board meeting. Then, of course, as Ray said, we have the rate hearing coming up in March, scheduled for March. The whole issue of soil, I think we'll add some more clarity to that. Brian will be doing a presentation on landfill development planning that's been underway for a while and coming to completion right now, sort of explaining how we're going to creatively manage all the soil we have on site and actually end up saving the agency money in the long run in terms of closure costs and post-closure care of the landfill. So all those things are wrapped into will be wrapped into a presentation on landfill development. It's a new topic we haven't, done in front of the board for a lot of years. So it's time for us to sort of come back and just give everybody a little explanation of how landfills actually work and all the work that goes into the front end and the back end of what we do with landfills. So that's a quick preview. If there's anything any of the executive committee would like us to bring back in addition to these topics, feel free to reach out to myself or Erica. We'll be more than happy to bring back additional items that you may feel are important or provide valuable information.
Thank you, Patrick. Any input from exec committee members? Past President Cullen.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to comment on that modern transfer station presentation, and just for my 2 cents, I hope that the board leaves with the message surrounding what it looks like. My concern, obviously we haven't seen the presentation. My concern is that if the presentation gets too much into history and all that, it just kind of bogs down the issue. It's my suggestion that the overarching message is just simply what it looks like.
Yep, that is exactly. what it's
Yeah,
gonna.
mine too.
It's not
Agreed.
gonna delve into history. It's about what it can be, not what it should have been.
Exactly.
Right,
And
Where
like I
we're
yeah.
said
headed.
before, go ahead.
That was all. Where we're headed together.
Yes. If we were to build a new facility, this is what it would look like.
Yes, absolutely. A nice new facility. This is what we want to target.
Perfect. Sounds like we're all in agreement. And at this point, I'll see if we have any public input on our future agenda items and open it up to the public on this item. Seeing no hands going up, we'll go ahead and close the public comment on that item and bring it back. There's no action needed on this. It's strictly informational. And with that, we're going to head into closed session. So I want to go ahead and share that there's one item on today's closed session, and I want to see if we have any public comment on that item is listed on the agenda. And I'll turn to council to see if there's any additional information that needs to be shared before we take that public comment.
Nothing additional at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, any public comment? I see a hand up from Grant Leonard. Grant, we're going to go ahead and give you the ability to unmute yourself. Please share your public comment with this committee.
Well, thank you, Chair and committee members. I just want to thank staff for having another Citizen Advisory Committee meeting late last month. Everybody's still keenly interested in this topic and looking forward to having something come out of the closed session so that we can provide you some more citizen advice on it. With that, I close my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Seeing no other hands up, we'll close public comment and we will recess to closed session. For committee members, you've received an email today with the link to that. So we'll leave this meeting. We will come back to go ahead and close out and open, but at this point, we're headed back to closed as a committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob, I want to say, the way you're sitting there in front of your camera with the fan behind you, you look like a holy person, like you have a white halo around you. I keep looking at you going, that looks like a biblical picture.
My wife might say I have a hole in my head. I'm holy. Yeah, I got my feet up here, and I'm relaxing because I'm not the president.
Look at that. When construction fails, he just sits back and enjoys.
This is the most relaxed I've seen Rob in years.
All right. Let's see. I've got Drew, Christy, Rob, myself. All right, we're all here. So I'm going to go ahead and see if council wants to share with us anything out of closed session today.
There's nothing to announce out at this time, Mr. President.
Great. Then with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Safe,
Stay
everybody.
safe.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.
Good night.